What up, Ethan Govender? Oh, Pedro. What up?
Penson, Mlotshwa, how are you?
I'm good, dog. How you doing?
I'm good. Yo, the kids were laughing at me this weekend when they saw my mustache. Well, the kids in China, at least, because
The stash. Say it again.
I just using name so million, so I have to specify this is meeting guy.
I was actually watching your statuses because you had like posted all the kids and you had posted your kids and you posted my kids, you know, and I think that's what linked into just wanting to just have a bit of a catch up, you know.
Sure.
A bit of a catch
up. I told you I'm gonna stop. I told you I'm gonna stop this thing of like laughing and smiling in videos unnecessarily. I see it's a habit that people. Hey, Penson, nice to see you. Hey.
Oh, stop. Lonoabo, this is not trouble. We're just hitting a catch up. Kamo, not trouble at all. We're hitting a catch up.
No one trolls me. No one trolls me like Lonoabo. No one. Always in my DMs, showing me that I'm a flip flopper and shit. Yes, so Funde needs to fucking. Yes, I'm gonna fucking block him. But I'm actually gonna use him some blocker. Funde lives just to fucking troll me. Jeez.
Oh, is it? Is he your number one troll? All right. Jeez. No, man, like again, it's good that we have people like that to keep us accountable. But it also just allows us to think, and it's that mirror about what we put out there. I've been looking at the stuff that I've been posting of late. I've been looking at my Instagram, especially since our last conversation about diet and what you are consuming on social media. So I've been very, very aware of what I'm posting, or more aware. Utukamo, are you also against marriage? We might address that, Kamo, just a little bit. I've just been aware of what I've been posting and the energy in which I'm sending out there. So that's what I've been trying to clean up. And watching your statuses has actually made me just more in awe of how brave you are with putting out certain information and speaking your truth. Because for you, if it's not educational and if it's not family, then you don't. Then you hardly post. You know.
Sure.
I never see you. Obviously, everybody knows you don't drink and you don't smoke, but I hardly see you posting anything outside of educational content and family.
Okay.
And again, to Igenge, who constantly are watching guys popping bottles at Ekonka, or Igenge, who are constantly posting big booty or whatever the case may be. You know, it's just always refreshing knowing, Woodsy, if I'm going through your stuff, I'm either learning or I'm reminiscing of my my nieces and nephews. And with that, just to answer Kamo quickly, I just want to go over the topic of today, which is unpacking your fucking statuses.
Hacking.
Unpacking.
Oh, unpacking.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Okay. Is that fine? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe I'll you know, you and I think it's a genetic thing. I think we have unique brains.
Okay.
You know,
my brain is very weird.
No, yes, it's called weird because it's not normal. You know.
Yeah.
I posted on my WhatsApp status this morning. I don't know what I was reading on Twitter, but I posted, I think, something last week about how we need lists outside of the rich list. You know, the rich list has got like Elon Musk as the richest man and Jeff Bezos at number 2.
Yeah.
And then we've got the top 1% earn, in this country it's 50,000. The top 10% earn 7,300. And I was just thinking, it would be so nice to have a list like that for other things outside of money. Like, what I was speaking about specifically at that point was physical health. how many people in the world actually run a marathon? You might find that you're in the top 1% in the world of human beings that can actually run a marathon. How many people can do 10 pull-ups at one go? How many people have completed a 10-kilometer run? You know, I think that would keep us honest instead of just chasing money. Number one, and chasing other things.
Just to jump in there, just 2 seconds, just to jump in there. I was shocked because Umuntu made their rugby comeback, you know, and obviously I posted things around playing sports and you know, and I was actually shocked at the number of people that I spoke to that have not played in a team sport since high school. I'm talking to people in their mid to late 30s. You know, they have never played a team sport. I'm not even talking about playing serious rugby. I'm talking about social mixed netball. You know, going to the play touch. Sorry?
Sports tough. Think of a book. There are people that haven't read a book since high school.
But even in high school, they didn't read the book.
That's also true.
You know, their teacher used to read the book for them.
So it would be nice to have lists. Physical health. How many countries have you traveled to? Or how many provinces? If you've traveled to 5 countries, you might be in the top 1% in the world of people that have actually been in more than one country. You know, I once saw a stat that said only 6% of people in the world have been on an airplane. I couldn't find data on how many people had traveled outside of their country. This is just people that have been on a plane. 6%.
Imagine that data here in Africa. What the percentage is.
It's crazy.
It would be 0.0 something.
Look at our family. Look at me and you. Our immediate family. I think our immediate family have all been on a plane except your late father. And then you look at our extended family and how few people in our extended family have been on a plane. There are some people in our extended family that if we were to sit and unpack, you'll find they haven't left one province.
That's true.
They've been in KZN since they were born. You know, they've never been to a, you know. Anyways, again, I'm deviating. So it would be nice to have these lists to keep us honest. And in thinking about that, what I posted this morning was, I think I'm probably in the top 10% in terms of income in the world, which is not a high figure because I think to be in the top 10% in the world, you need to be earning 6,000 Rand or something a month. I think I'm in the top 1% in the world in terms of physical health. And I'm only saying this because you and I play touch rugby 2-3 times a week. And we've both run marathons and I've finished the comrades. I can only imagine that puts me in some type of elite group. So top 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be worse, but just to be honest, because I don't think my body is like a Ferrari, like yours.
Like mine.
You're probably in 0.00.
Like a million zeros. 0.00000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000. and soldiers. Oh, there's haters. Ulonwabo to hate. Where is he now?
But it's the truth. You know, I see Ulolo I just jumped on.
Yeah.
Ulolo was he might still be the top, if not one of the top try scorers in the Varsity Cup. But as far as like sprinting and athleticism is concerned, he's up there in the world. Ulolo could have been Umapimpi and he could have won a World Cup. That's how unique some of us are in terms of athleticism. And then the last one, which is the one I actually want to speak about in terms was my mind. Because you speak about unpacking my statuses, my WhatsApp statuses. I think conservatively, I'm probably in the top 0.001% in terms of mental strength, intelligence, level of knowledge, ability to process. And I mean, I listen to guys like Joe Rogan, Trevor Noah, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson. You look at some of the old philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Pythagoras, you know, and Marcus Aurelius, I read these guys' things and I don't feel out of touch.
Out of place, yeah.
I feel very comfortable in that space. You know what I mean? So I think my brain is at that capacity and I think I've gotten enough validation from people locally and people abroad. Luckily, the internet allows us to connect overseas. So you get an idea of how potentially intelligent you actually may be.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm saying this because you speak about unpacking my statuses, and you and I are relatively intelligent chaps, and I don't know if it's genetic. Because I've asked your uncle, Petros, you know, he was speaking about how religion was brought by white people. He was speaking about how we need to question COVID, for example. And I asked him, where did you get this from? You know, he was showing me Robert Kiyosaki videos he's been watching. And I asked him, where do you get this from? What made you question these things and read up on the stuff and watch these videos? And he's like, I know, Dangas. I'm like, so there's something inside you, like a personal engine, that drives you to just be inquisitive and curious.
And
if you look at someone
like
you look at someone like Usazi, our cousin. Usazi uyakuthanda ukuzula. Our father, our late father, wayathanda ukuzula. My mom, our mom, whenever I zula, she wants to come with. So there's clearly some other genetic thing where we love exploring, you know. I don't know if we can take credit for some of those things. So I'm saying this because you want to unpack my statuses, and you probably not triggered, but I don't know if fascinated is the right word by them, but it's because there's something unique in how we think and how we process. It might be genetic, and I think it touches on a lot of other human beings who are fascinated by the thought we have and how we express it. In the same way people would study Elon Musk, in the same way people would watch Usain Bolt running and watch LeBron James on the court. There are people that are fascinated in reading what we have to say, in what we think. I think that's pretty cool. I know it was meant to be short, but I just wanted to say that before you carry on.
The phone in some flames.
Your battery split.
How? As an as with you,
that's bad planning.
It is. It is. With banding, you're going to finish cut some.
Jeez, your life is so tough.
Yeah. So when you are one of many, so count yourself privileged. Count yourself privileged
Look at my excited face. Look at how excited I am that you're giving me your time.
I can see. That is beyond excited. No, it's let me just plug it in here. I think you spot on in what you're saying. I just wanted to unpack certain things. Yesterday you were posting about the whole Kanye at that show. I think what gets me is when
I've got another point to make.
Okay, sorry. Chat quickly.
No. I don't want to disrupt you, but I've got another point to make so I wanted to add it in the beginning about what makes me different, because you mentioned that I don't pop bottles and I don't club and I don't party.
Yeah.
The reason I was mentioning the list and that there's rich people and there's people that are athletically well and then there's people that are great minds, of which I think I'm one, is because we have different interests, and I had to learn to stop judging people that are different from me. You know, if you look at, for example, girls, women out there, they are attracted to certain things.
Yes.
This is not just for women, but specifically women. So if a guy's good looking, you know, visual is normally the first thing we do. So if a guy's good looking, they'll be like, oh my gosh, he's so hot. So that makes someone to come close. If you're butt ugly, but you're driving a fancy car or you're wearing expensive clothing, she might be like, ooh, I think this guy's rich. And then people like myself don't have a fancy car. I don't want to speak about my looks, but let's assume like I'm butt ugly. But I think I have like a unique brain. So that might make people want to come closer to me. So I've had to learn to not judge people who pop bottles, who drive fancy cars, who slay, who want to look good and smell good, because unfortunately, for some of them, that's all they have. You know, they can only be great if they are partying and posting pictures of the club they went to and the bottles they drank from.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't need the rest of that because my mind is good enough. So posting education, what I've thought about posting my children who will be the extension of me when I die. For me, sometimes that's good enough. That's why I don't need to pop the other stuff. But I don't want to say I look down on those people. We have different gifts.
I look down on certain people. And you had posted something along the lines of, don't worry too much about people, whatever the case is, unless they are going to hurt themselves. You know, I think something along those lines. Unless they're going to hurt themselves or hurt others or whatever the case is, then you must step in. So for me, I don't mind popping bottles. I don't mind you doing this. I think what's happening in our society is that a lot of it is becoming extremely toxic. Toxic in the sense of we see a lot of men, if I can call it this, using women for the wrong reasons, and women using men for the wrong reasons. And it's not creating a healthy relationship amongst the gender/sexes. So give me, that's when I intervene. I say, hey, this is toxic. Again, I drink, but it's not a matter of drinking kona, gizo stanta, or drinking so that I can attract girls. I think that is when it's wrong. There's nothing wrong with driving a fast car, driving a Lamborghini. Perfect. But give me, if it flows into a toxic culture, much like gym, nothing wrong with gymming. Gymming is a healthy thing. But now if it's leading towards the use of steroids or training to a point where you snap your back, that's when I feel good as a society. That's when we need to step in and say, hey, okay, let's reassess these certain behaviors.
You can hear in the words that people use that what they're doing is harming them. So if, for example, a guy is like, yo, I'm going out on the weekend, but shit, I'm broke and I'm in debt, then you're definitely allowed to be like, I think you're living the wrong way. If a guy is worried about what a chick is doing, or if a chick's like, I feel like guys are using me, that's when you're like, sis, I think it might be
the problem is that at times, most times, people don't open up on that. So being broke and going to go pop bottles, guys don't open up on that. Much like guys don't open up on the use of steroids. Girls, a lot of girls only realize later on in their later 20s, they were. Sorry, I was getting a phone call. Yeah, sorry.
You were frozen.
I was getting a phone call.
Balus is frozen. Oh, Balus is frozen. Let it go. Fuck, I forgot.
Is there no Anna?
I don't think so. Elsa or something.
Elsa. Do you want to build a snowman? So again, give me this. The problem is that guys, as you know, guys don't chat. Guys keep it to themselves. So guys are broke. A lot of guys, not all guys. Guys are broke, and yet they want to, because of the pressures of society and what they consume, they need that validation of popping bottles, and now they're going to get themselves into a deeper financial hole, or because a guy needs to get that six-pack, he needs to get that six-pack. Now he starts injecting steroids and all these things, which is detrimental to his health. One, he doesn't communicate. And because he doesn't communicate, people around him can't give him the right advice. And that, to me, again, is where I want to hit on. Who would say, I don't mind. Do whatever you feels you need to do. Traveling is a beautiful thing. But the moment as a society we start using traveling as a form of ukutelana and only those who are worthy, no, traveling is there to open up your mind. Whether you're traveling to Mlotshwa in a new township for the first time, or whether you're traveling to a new country, it's about opening your mind. It's not about hey, yeah, when you ain't shit, nigga. Look at me, my passport is stamped, nigga. You're such a loser. I think that's when it becomes a problem. And you 100%. Then it's a huge issue. I know so many guys who, when they say, okay, we're going to a gong, guys that happily will drink a draft, but they can't be in that space without buying a bottle. Now that impression, now, labo sisengihamba now, ngeke ngikwazi ukuthi ngibathengele i-bottle fruit, nabo fanele ngibathengele shampoo, and then that's where the pressure comes in. And something for me, which is about having fun and just drinking, all of a sudden becomes so toxic at that time and long term. Because now I've used my credit card, since it's quality buying new champagne. Yeah, but all of a sudden you're saying, oh, thank you so much for the drinks. I need to go, blah, blah, blah. Hi, bosses.
Jeez, I wanted to say, the first thing I wanted to say is the post that you were alluding to earlier was where I was saying you need to stop worrying about poor people. Unless if, number one, you're getting paid like politicians or like NGOs. or number two, if it's for selfish interests. The reason you're trying to help a beggar around your street is so that they can leave your street, so that they don't steal from you, etc. Is the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing was, you're saying you sometimes look down on people, and you're giving your reasons, and you're saying people don't communicate and whatever. And it's making me wonder, like, who decides what is right and what's wrong? Who decides what's the perfect human being? You talk about traveling as a way of opening your mind. Like, who decides? Because there's places like North Korea where the people are not allowed to travel, even within the country, you know, and there's a danger of overexposure. But I think those are probably philosophical questions to think about.
I just wanted to just touch Uguti.
I fidget a lot. People don't know that I fidget a lot. Like, standing still like this whenever you see me in an interview is very weird for me. It's very unnatural and I don't like it. I fidget a lot, but I'm listening. I wanted to speak about Upa.
Man,
Sorry.
before we get there, because we're missing out on comments. Stop, missing out on comments. Stop. Wait. We're missing out on comments.
Die bestuurder. Luister na my. Ek praat van die bestuurder. Luister. Upas was in my room and you can say
no. We live in a society that celebrates
Listen here, my friend. I'm speaking now. You will shut up. Because you asked me
you touched me on my studio.
You asked me to come to this interview.
Touched me. I will switch off this studio.
I will switch off this phone, my friend. How dare you tell me to shut up in my interview? Except Upas in the blue room, my blue room metal mage says to me, guys like Rick Ross are whack. He's busy celebrating shit like 10 black Maybachs back to back in a lane. And I'm like, but that's maybe what makes him happy. He's like, no, that's not pure happiness. I'm like, who the fuck are you to decide? So he must smoke weed and be amongst nature and hike, which is your definition of happiness. Why can't, like, if he sees 10 black Maybachs back to back in a lane, why can't that be happiness for him? Sorry, I disturbed you. You were talking about comments.
No, I was just saying
but you never again do you disturb me.
Touch me on my studio. We live in a society that celebrates facades, and I agree. And to what Upas is saying, in my opinion, who decides? Because now we can go very, very deep with that. Very, very deep. Who decides that a girl is too young for? Who decides?
Sure.
Who decides me going and drowning bunnies is wrong? Who decides? You know, so now we end up living in that gray area, you know, of what is toxic behavior. You know, so a guy who is drinking every day, chowing different girls every day, you know, he's not raping them, they're accepting it. Who decides that's toxic behavior? Who says that's wrong? You know, if I want to do a line of coke during lunch every day at work, why can't I do a line of coke? You know.
Can I speak?
Of course you can speak.
Oh no, I wanted to say, just on this point you're making, I saw girls being touched that Leonardo DiCaprio only dates girls that are age 19 to 25.
I saw that on your post.
Every time the woman gets to 25, he breaks up with her and he goes for another younger girl. And some girls are like, no, that's toxic behavior. And I'm like, these are adult women. Apparently they have agency. So who the hell are you to decide for them that that's not right? Now DiCaprio must be forced to stay with them to make you happy or to look morally correct. And who says that these girls are not happy with the arrangement? So we call it society, which is actually very wrong. It's a huge myth. South Africa is, I'm not going to say pro-homosexuality, but we're an open country. Homosexuality is open, it's legalized, you can get married. Unlike in some African countries and other parts of the world where homosexuality is a crime. You can get jailed. I think in some places you might even get killed. And we're told that that's a societal view. It's not a societal view. As far as I'm concerned, the bulk of South Africans are homophobic, including our politicians, including our ministers. If you were to ask them directly how they feel about their child being gay, you would hear a lot of swear words. Our country is obviously xenophobic. We've seen that a lot. So when some of these laws are created, when some of these things are normalized, it's not society. Society is just forced to buy into them because someone has decided that it is now a crime. Someone has decided that it will be cancelled. You know, ooh, tag the brand that he's working with. How do you guys work with this guy? You know, that's not a societal view. It's normally decided by the people that sit in the upper echelons of decision making. So when a WHO or a health department in South Africa decides that they're going to lock down the country, we weren't given a chance to vote. When they decide that we're all going to be forced to vaccinate, we weren't given a chance to vote. So Ramaphosa now has signed an $8.5 billion deal for renewable energy, while some of the big countries in the world who fuck up the supposed atmosphere and environment, they've decided to not sign. We didn't decide that. And now the minister of minister, or if it's mineral affairs or what, Ukwere Mantashe is like, he's against it. And I'm like, then who the fuck decided? If Ukwere is telling us he doesn't support it, and if we don't support it, who the fuck decided? Tomorrow go to IR, you guys as a country decided. We didn't decide. So to what you're saying about who creates these perceptions, I can tell you very much that a lot of it is from the people that have money. There's this great, I'll call him Indian because I'm not sure which part of Western Asia he comes from. Chamath Palihapitiya, an ex-Facebook executive. I think I referenced him last time when I spoke about the social dilemma. He speaks about the fact that there are 150 men, probably white men in the world, who get to decide how the world views things. You and I have spoken about putting on different glasses and the fact that we can watch the same movie and you idolize Van Damme and I idolize Tongpo, you know, purely because we've got different glasses. The glasses that you have are designed or are engineered by school, by church, by what we call social media and television. So hitting someone is wrong, that's violent. Looking at an adult in the eyes is disrespectful. Meanwhile, Belungu, if Umdala is speaking at you, you have to look at them in the eyes. If you look away, you disrespectful. So you realize there's these engineered invisible shades. You know, there's these invisible shades, spectacles that are put onto us, and they are put on by the most influential people in the world, who are the ones that will decide if Dave Chappelle will get a special. Dave Chappelle has a special on Netflix because there are powerful people who have decided so. Same with Joe Rogan. Otherwise, they can get cancelled for real tomorrow, either by being killed, like Steve Biko, no Robert Sobugwe, or like, I'm going to use a bad example, but like R. Kelly and Harvey Weinstein. All of a sudden, you find that Joe Rogan's been fucking little girls somewhere, or you find out that Dave Chappelle is involved in human trafficking, or you find out that he's been drugging girls like Bill Cosby, and you get cancelled. Or Java, like an ex somewhere. So there are two people that decide on the societal perspective, as far as I'm concerned.
It was so funny because we're actually talking about this with the young lady around why do you guys get so triggered about a lady's past? No? I'm like, the same reason you get triggered about R. Kelly's past. If you are doing something that is immoral in the past, let's say 5 years ago, you know, something that I deem immoral, but it was 5 years ago. Sisters, when you tell me today, on the 10th of November, to me, it feels like you've done it today. The same way that when Bill Cosby came out, that he did things 40 years ago, people are punishing him like he did it today. You know, and it's just so weird when you chat, especially with those spits, as no offense, but those sometimes, what about camouflage?
Do you think it's fair to be punished today for something that was moral and legal in the past?
I don't think it is fair to punish from a legal point. You know, from a legal point.
From a moral point? What about from a moral point? It used to be moral. It's not moral anymore.
It used to be moral.
I'll give you two examples. Apartheid was a legal system. Again, talking about society. The government of the day, they didn't ask all of us to vote. They decided that white people would be an upper class race in this country, and they relegated black people from their land. It was legal. According to them, the leaders, it was deemed moral. Like what Cyril is doing now. It's legal and it's deemed moral. In the future, it then gets decided this was a crime against humanity. Same thing happened in Nazi Germany. No one wants to talk about the fact that Ushaka Zulu did the same thing. Because it was legal to fight other tribes and kill them and take over them and define them as Zulu. If ever one day someone wakes up in the morning and has influence and says, no, I'd actually like the Zulu nation to account for their past atrocities and to reshare and redistribute the land that was defined for other tribes. The other example I wanted to make, before it loses me, hidings. A lot of people don't know that I think either 2015 or 2017, it is now illegal to hit your kids. If you hit your children, if you slap your child, if you spank them, whatever you call it, if ever someone sees you, if ever your child has the ability, they can open a case for assault.
I wouldn't spank my kids. I don't hit my kids. I don't spank my kids. My kids just get a, hey, stop that. Don't you dare. Just so that people on the live can know what's Mina. I'm against the
I've seen you in your home. I won't say anything.
I just say,
so we're not allowed to hit.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to hit.
Yeah.
And those same women you're speaking about now, they'll be the first to be like, what? No, kids must get a hiding. I got a hiding. What do you do if your child is being disrespectful and throwing tantrums? Those women. Now, let's go back. Because they think hitting a child, when you've warned them and they've been rowdy or whatever, they think it's should be, not anymore. They think it should be legal and they think it's moral. They even reference the Bible.
Yes.
Then we move back to a point where our fathers were taught that it's legal and moral to hit your wife. How many times must you warn your wife
before she listens?
The same woman today will say, no, but that's an adult and they are equal to you. That's today. Back then, a woman didn't have those rights. A woman was seen as lesser than. And the men that were hitting women then weren't doing it. I'm not going to speak about blatant abusers. They weren't doing it out of foulness. In the same way, a lot of mothers today still beat their kids. It's not because they're trying to kill them. It's not because they think their kids are such trash. It's because they're like, I'm just trying to discipline my child because I love them and I want them to be better. So my question again was, do you think it's fair to be punished today for something that was legal and moral back then?
That you did then. So for
that you did back then,
yes.
It was still legal and moral. But it comes out today that you sleep with little kids.
Yeah.
But you find out it was fine back then.
So how I wanted to go about this, I wanted to say I don't think it is fair from a legal point. So let's say in 1975, sleeping with a 15-year-old girl was legal. And I did that in 1975. I don't feel like when it comes out in 2020 and the law has changed and now the law has gone from 15 to 18, for example, now I need to be arrested for Ikamekeme that I did then.
When they were legal.
Fine. When they were legal. You know, that's my thing, which is from a legality. You know, I don't think it is right. You know, now we're coming to the morality, which I feel it's a bit gray, you know, because the morality gave me, for a lot of people, I think it also speaks to your religion or to your rooting. You know, if you can use something as homosexuality, you know, homosexuality in the Bible, it is immoral. You know, famous rugby player, as you know, Israel Folau, quoted the verse of Corinthians, you know, around homosexuality, and he got cancelled. You know, from a morality point, in South Africa, it is not immoral to be homosexual. I have been, I don't want to use the word attacked. I wasn't attacked. I have been corrected, I think that's a better word, of things that I said about homosexuality 20 years ago. 20 years ago. You know,
like Kevin Hart.
Yeah. So like Tina, you know this. Growing up, when they act, we deem feminine, we be like, oh, you go by stubborn. Yeah, boy. And I remember on Facebook, this one guy was like, oh, and Penson used to say that all the time to me, and it really hurts. You know, this guy is homosexual today. I then made a joke by saying,
was he homosexual back then?
I was saying, I could see the future. Hey, he killed me. He's like,
homosexual back then? Was he homosexual or has he only changed now? Therefore,
because then, like back then, he didn't like it. You know, I mean, I was using it to tease. I wasn't using it to build him. I wasn't using it to construct. I was using it to tease. But ukubiza umuntu ngestabani back then wasn't an immoral thing. It wasn't, oh my God, this guy's the worst thing ever. But saying it today, you know, it's wrong. Where does Penson
according
work?
to who?
According to society. According to
who is society?
The decision makers, the black Twitter, you know, according to Ellen DeGeneres. So now it's deemed as immoral. Is it fair for society to...
Is morality democratic?
No. Is it fair for society to shun me from a moral point on things that I said 20 years ago? You know, I don't think it's fair. You know, I don't think it's fair. However, I understand their pain. I understand.
Why do we do it? Why do we do it to white people that benefited from apartheid?
What do you mean? Why do we do it?
Why do we judge them today for what they thought back then was moral?
No, I'm saying it's still painful. You know. So again, if
I'm saying you feel wrong, and I'm asking, why do we do it with white people? Why do we blast white people for what they thought was moral back then?
No, I'm saying Guti, I understand ubuhlungu bomuntu and their response. Hence why I said Guti, lo muntu on Facebook, it was kateng manager, kateng fundisa, kateng police. I understand their pain. You know, it's not nice hearing Guti something that you deem was very immoral. You know, let's say a man hitting a wife. You know, back when it was legal in 19 Futsek, it's not nice when you hear it today. So it's still very painful, you know. So I understand, because we are emotional beings, how people react to that. I get that. What I think is wrong is when we now arrest him. I think that's wrong. Now we arrest him because he beat a woman in 1970, but in 1970, that was perfectly legal. But I still understand.
What if the person doesn't agree with current morality? And they feel like, no, their moral compass is still the same.
Yeah, so with us, luckily in the country we live in, is that our legality and our morality is very close. So in this country, what you might deem moral, the country might say is immoral in terms of the law. You know, personally, when I see a 80-year-old rich old guy with a 22-year-old beautiful hot whatever, give me there's a level of immoral. One is immoral. Either the old person's taking advantage or the young person. Icona or immoral. You know, they could both be happy. They could both have a perfect agreement. But give me, it always looks like it's either ikehla super lingani or lingani shishangi timing so abuse ikehla. I deem it's immoral, but that's not illegal at all. I think it's immoral for all these girls to go around and flirt with guys, get them to buy champagne, get them to buy hubbly and what's at these expensive places, and then they act like buy a bathroom, then they duck. You know, Cheetah's now stuck with an 8,000 rand bill. He thought he's investing and he's going to get returns later on that evening. I think that's immoral. You know, it's not illegal, you know, but I think it's immoral. So who decides? I don't know.
Are we still on topic? You wanted to unpack my WhatsApp statuses, and I feel like we haven't really.
Just 2 seconds.
We've spoken about how my mind works, or how our minds work, rather.
I think that's where I wanted to go to, because I wanted to go into how your mind works, then unpack it. Wait, just quickly, but you can't compare my own child to another who came in her life as an adult, spanking and abusing. It feels totally different. No, that's exactly what we're saying when I do this. That's exactly what we're saying. We're just saying, but there was a time where got take fun.
Yes, I want to add this because I did clarify that women were given a different class back then, and the easy way to explain. Huh?
No, I'm looking. Answer the question. I don't know what the question is. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah. So my thing is, people need to understand that women were treated as a different class, back then, even if they were of the same age as the man. That's the first important thing. The second important thing is a lot of the men back then married younger women. So in effect, the woman would almost come as children to these men. I mean, look at even Abo Zwelithini, Abo Mswati. If let's say I'm a 35-year-old man and I'm getting a 17-year-old. I once posted this on Facebook where I was asking this question of, I'm a 60-year-old man. I think I should make it, okay, yeah, I'm a 60-year-old man. I have a 40-year-old wife as a 60-year-old man. That's a 20-year gap. This 40-year-old wife has given me a daughter, but we had this child 20 years ago, which means our daughter is 20 years old. I go because I'm a polygamist, I'm traditionalist. I go and I get another wife.
Yeah.
On a 20.
So I've got a 40-year-old wife and a 20-year-old wife.
I'm a 60-year-old man. I've got a 40-year-old wife. We have a 20-year-old daughter. And then I go and I marry a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
I think Uzuma married Kongo. Forgot this lady's name. But 24. I think she's roughly the same age as Ututuzan. And my question was... Yes, anyways, so it so happens that the daughter, my daughter on a 20, and my wife on a 20 decide to go out. Let's actually take it down. Let's say they both 18, for example, interesting. Or actually, keep it at 20. So they go out and they come home drunk at 3 in the morning.
And they stole the car and they stole the car and they did all these whatever.
They stole the car. What? They're young. They're youngish. They're partying.
Yeah.
Let's take me out of the equation because I need to. Women have got issues with GBV. My wife, the first wife on her 40, she hits her daughter on her 20. What should she do to the 20-year-old? Who's also my wife? No, she's like, people don't understand this dynamic of number one, age, and number two, maturity. And the other important thing I wanted to raise was people that don't understand what it means to be of a different class need to look at, if you live in the suburbs and you drive a nice car and you have a nice job, it's the way you look at a beggar. It's the way you look at rural people who are uneducated. And they come and they tell you something like, living in the suburbs is stupid, you shouldn't drive a car, it's polluting. You look at them like they're stupid, and you're like, and you don't realize that in that action, you are actually looking down on someone as a lower class. That's how it works. We still do it today. We do it with money, we do it with looks. A chick who's slaying has got nice makeup and a weave. If petrol is like, our sisters, hey, each number, she'd be like, you, me. So this petrol attendant came to mac on me. I mean, like, really? And you're like, do you realize you're looking down on that person as a lower class? So women were seen as a lower class. So a person who's a lower class, you feel like you're smarter than them, you know better. So when they are wrong, you want to correct them. Don't vote ANC. No, don't do this. No, don't. And you shout at them if they're wrong. And then for some people, they take on the physical. Men do it to each other. If you in the streets with a stupid man who's busy, you shell my chair and you're shy because you're like, no man, my chair. But if there was a chick or you can't hit her because now that's wrong. But it's the exact same mindset. So we deviated. You wanted to speak about mine.
Yeah. So again, you watch a Kanye West interview on YouTube. And
Nori was fucking Kanye's dick. It was so disgusting to watch. I was like, this is fucking disgusting.
And you're talking about the lens within this chat. We see the same YouTube clip. We listen to the same Red Cross. However, you absorb and take something different to that. And I think whenever I read your posts, I'm reminded of that all the time. You know, Uguchi, you will see a headline on ESCOM around whatever their power station. your brain then instantly, because that's why I'm going with how do you think? Because then your brain goes and let's unpack this. Let me find out more. How's the layers of it? Most people in society just stick, well, that means the power plant doesn't work. When you then unpack it, and then you saying, okay, let's get to the level of Ramaphosa. Okay, Ramaphosa got this amount. Okay, let's unpack. What's that money for? Where's that money going? What's the interest on that money? Who's it? Like,
there's this guy called Dalingebo Pagati. He's going to be so happy that I'm mentioning his name. Utali speaks about, and I'm sure this is not his concept, he speaks about multi-layered thinking. And I think he speaks all the way down to fourth layer. First layer thinking is headline says Ramaphosa is the greatest president of all time. You're like, oh, the media said it. It must be true.
It must be true.
Second layer thinking is like, is he? Really? Based on what? Third and fourth layer thinking is more where you understand the dynamics of how the media world works. Who funds media? Why they want to support Ramaphosa? What he stands for? Who are the people behind? What are the implications of it being right and wrong? All the way back to understanding that there's something called propaganda in the world. If you read George Orwell's 1984, you watch a movie like V for Vendetta, The Island, The Matrix, you understand that the world that we live in is built on perceptions. And perceptions are pushed through narrative and story. The reason you believe that Mars is real is because from when you were a child, you were forced to cram the planets, and you did a project and a chart about the planets, and Mars is the red planet. And someone's like, here's a telescope, you see that red dot there, that's Mars. And then you watch all the movies of the guys going to Mars. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall might go to Mars. And so this story has been deeply entrenched in your mind that obviously Mars is real, it's a fact, until new propaganda comes up. And that story must be even better. And this is the story of someone like Nelson Mandela, where everyone knows for a fact that Nelson was a great man. And he fought fast and he went to jail for 27. And someone's like, really?
Really?
I don't know. Then the deeper guys are like, why was he let out? What agenda is he pushing? And then you start hearing words around, he's a sellout. Look at the policies we have, whatever. So, number one, academics came easily to me from a very young age. And I put this only on genetics because there's nothing unique that I think I did or we did in our home compared to other homes for me to get 90%. We weren't at home.
I didn't get 90s. Now I'm failure, guys. I'm Huzu. Huzu, me. I'm Huzu. And then my 90s
are anyways. So I think academics came to me very easily, and all the way through to matric. I got A's not because I put in so much work, not because I had tutors. We had no tutors. We didn't do extra maths. We weren't enrolled in some TV program. We weren't listening to Smith, whatever Smith's name was on that channel. We weren't. So all of it I'd like to think was genetic, which means if the teacher speaks, for some weird reason I cannot explain, my ears can hear it and my brain remembers. And then when the test and exam comes, when they ask the question, my brain can sort it out and then I can regurgitate. And then I pass and I mark, and it gets marked and I pass and I do well. It was only during varsity that I started questioning this concept of being intelligent and what it really means. And it was at varsity where I started being exposed to alternative thinking. I was exposed to Black consciousness. I went and I read the Bible and I started questioning religion. And I read up on various religious thoughts. And I started having engagements. And that's when, this was like, I think before YouTube. That was when like we were using DC++ and we were downloading documentaries. And some of the smarter kids that were in their economics class or in their philosophy class speak about Immanuel Kant, and all these guys were like, oh, do you know the thinking of
Zeitgeist and all these things? I remember.
Watch Zeitgeist, watch Fahrenheit 9/11, you know, and something sparked in my brain. We'll call it curiosity, which I think has always been there. And I wanted to know more, and I've constantly wanted to know more. So even from when I was young, you know, I used to devour books at the library. the Goosebumps series, Sweet Valley, Tintin, Archie, Asterix and Obelix, and then Roald Dahl. And then when you got to varsity, I started doing more non-fiction, because non-fiction is fucking boring. Your autobiographies, you know, Che Guevara, Steve Biko. Like I said, I read the Bible. I read Malcolm X's biography. And now with YouTube and other documentaries, and today we've got Netflix, and now we've got articles on Wikipedia, my rate of consuming knowledge has gone on overdrive. You know, and like I said, my brain can remember some of the stuff, and it can organize it in some way. So when people speak,
with the way that we consume knowledge, just 2 seconds.
I mustn't finish.
No, because the way that we consume.
I'm almost done. I'm almost done.
All right, sure.
So I'm constantly chowing data and knowledge, including stats. I'm that loser guy that no one knows about. That when you guys are drinking and partying, when people are busy fucking and doing whatever they do, I'm reading like data on the SARS website, on Stats SA. I'm reading documents. I'm reading legal cases. I'm reading up on American politics. I'm looking at something on Wikipedia that other people don't know. I'm watching those boring YouTube videos that no one watches. You know, so by the time and I also have met some really, really intelligent people. I used to attend extra lectures at varsity. A lot of people don't know about extra lectures. That's when some boring professor from out of town comes to speak about the state of the economy. And today, armed with all of that knowledge, when someone says something as basic as, oh, we've got load shedding, ESCOM must do better, oh, let's vote ANC, my brain goes on overdrive. I don't just take it at face level that, oh, Cyril sucks. The reason I hate Cyril is because my reason is very, very multi-layered, because of the deep amount of knowledge I have and the way that I process it in my brain to come up with an output.
I think for me, it scares me the way in which we consume information. Like if you were to go into my YouTube and just go through my suggestions, you know, it's crazy.
Search history.
On my search history, even worse. You know, I'll go to people's YouTubes and yes, I'll just be seeing nonsensical things. Maybe it's just a music videos, or you go to like a girl's YouTube and it's makeup tutorials. This is what you consume. You go into their Instagram, you click on the explore page, and you're just literally seeing girls in bikinis, and I go, oh my gosh, the way in which we consume information is so different. I think my fear, and this is what I wanted to chat to you about, is, are you not worried because of how we consume information that we never really get deep roots on this one tree, but rather just a lot about it? We know a lot about a lot, but we don't know. Because spreading it thin.
I'll tell you that my brain has been working since I was a little child. I think if anyone were to actually hack my brain and see what happens, it might actually even scare me, to be honest. You know, a stupid example. My brain can entertain a thought like rape is okay, because a lion can tear open a buck and eat it while it's still bleeding, and we can celebrate that. So why can't a person fuck a chick? You know, like my brain can entertain a dark thought like that. You know, that's why I'm saying it's scary, because I obviously have to come back to like the moral, whatever we call moral.
But so Carl Jung speaks about that in his writing The Shadow. Within us, sure, there's the everything from the demon to the angel. And sure, in order to truly understand who you are, you need to understand the demon within you and the angel. And once you can see and understand that there's a Hitler within you, and at the same time there's a Mother Teresa, where you can agree with the Hitler within you and agree with the Mother Teresa, that's when you find full consciousness of who you are. That's what he says.
The concept of yin and yang, light and dark. And Jordan Peterson talks about that, specifically about men, that you must have a monster. You must be able to be the beast at any given time. And even before I was very woke and conscious, I wrote an article for one of my mentors, Uvuyo Jack, in Black. And at the time, I thought I was just writing. The article was about how heaven and hell lives within you. And I know Mamsi, it was one of her favorite pieces. And at the time, I didn't even think it was a big deal. But you see that some of these themes are recurring in life. I want to say that at some point, I used to worry about being a jack of all trades and a master of none. And I used to worry about acquiring specific knowledge. Elon Musk also speaks about specific knowledge, specifically in Tesla. And one of the things you learn, Miles Monroe speaks about it, if you just read like 3 books about a subject, which won't take you long, you've probably covered the depth of the subject. Subjects are actually not as deep as we'd like to think they are. I want to say that. I want to say I've gotten to a point where I realize that I am a leader. I don't know if I was born to be a leader, but I've come to realize that because there are no leaders around, I think you're doing the same in shooting guns, learning how to fight. You want to be the guy that people call when there's trouble. You want to be the guy that, shit, it's going down. Who can we call? And you, Superman, you're Batman. You're the guys, I've been training for this every single day. When someone needs to be punched the fuck out, Abelung have shown us, the Indians in Phoenix, guys, when shit is bad, these are the guys you call. So I want to be the person that when people are like, we don't know what to do, where should we go? Penuel, there's ESCOM load shedding, what should we? I believe I'm a leader now, and I'm owning it. And I don't think leaders are supposed to have very, very detailed, specific knowledge. I think leaders are meant to have generic knowledge. And then obviously the quality of your leadership, like a Xi Jinping and a Kim Jong-un, the quality and depth of your leadership will lie in how deep your generic knowledge is.
And who so you surround, I think you're because again, if Ulungelo knows everything about ESCOM, and I can call you when I need you to unpack things about ESCOM, I don't need to have all that knowledge about ESCOM because I've got access to you.
So that helps. Mina, my brain works in such a way where I think I've covered everything generally, and now I'm starting to go deep. So you might find I'm 35 now. If I carry on at this pace, by the time I'm 50, I'm going to be a master of many subjects. You and I can go back to varsity now and take 7 years and become doctors. And then after those 7 years, not practice, go and spend 5 years and get our commercial pilot license. And then after that, you can go to America and go for Navy SEAL training. But you don't have to go to varsity. You can actually go on YouTube and Wikipedia and read up on medical terms every day, just a little bit. And over 10 years, you do that with medicine, you do that with law, you do that with engineering, and then you start meeting, like you're saying, the people that are master engineers, master lawyers, and over a 10, 20, 30-year period, you will become a master of any field. And I think that's what I'm working towards. So I'm not worried about spreading myself thin because I think I've covered everything generally. And now I'm starting to go deep, especially on the more important stuff that really, really sculpts the world. And in the same breath, I want to remove everything and remind myself regularly that I'm just a chimpanzee. I'm just an animal. Language is just a construct. Culture and names and technology are all constructs. And at any given time, I must go into the wilderness and be a nobody and also be at peace. That allows me to have inner peace.
I hear you. There's a time when you touched on Elon Musk, and I think I've held on to his way of thinking because someone would be like, you want to do Tesla, you want to do Neuralink, you want to do SpaceX, you want to, and his concept of how he's tied his companies together, I remember speaking to you, I think it was to you or one of the gents, where I said, I am about 4 weeks from playing and dominating any sports of my choosing, because I've tied in the principle of, let's say, sports. Sports requires you to be fit, it requires you to be strong, it requires you awareness of spatial awareness, great communication. So if in 4 weeks you say, okay, Ntanga, you need to play netball, I think in 4 weeks, not only will I be able to play netball, but I'll be able to dominate it, because I've got the foundational pieces. So if me and you go and decide to be doctors, and we get our whatever, and we start practicing for a month or whatever, and then we stop and we decide to be pilots, I want to get to a point where I can start linking it. So then I might be a doctor to pilots and a pilot to doctors. I don't know if that makes sense. Where I can start drawing these bridges so that I constantly keep tapping on my other resources. You know, I'm a teacher. It's taken me a while to understand that. I think it's only something I truly understood about 6 years ago, which I'm a teacher, you know. So whatever platform I have, I teach. I find myself in when I got into sales and my first presentation, you know, I'd be like, oh my God, and I was like, that's because I teach. I know how to present. You don't intimidate me. All 30 of you guys standing in front of me, it's not intimidating for me. You know, I've got the knowledge. You got your ears. Switch them on. Let's go. You know, Josh Lazy, read this. Best teacher. Yeah, Josh. Yeah. So again, even when I'm playing rugby, you know, with the guys, you pull them together. You say, okay, here's the thing. Here's the goal. How are we going to get to the goal? And I start teaching. You know, sometimes I can get a bit too aggressive, whatever the case is. But whether I'm boxing, whether I'm going to shoot guns, I went and I was shooting guns with your sister and her boyfriend, and I was teaching. This is how you hold it. This is how you do this. This is how you teach. You know, now Muntu is in media. Teach. How can you use media to unlock certain things? You know, now we using technology. We're on IG. We're using it to teach. So I'm trying to link everything that I know of my walk so that I don't lose anything. And when one aspect grows, my media game, as this grows, my teaching stays growing, you know, as I carry on. So I'm never missing out on anything. Gong, it's so interconnected.
I think you are a leader. You're seeing it as teaching, of which you definitely are a teacher. But I think there's a higher level, because teaching is passing on knowledge. And I think you're actually trying to transform people to move in a certain direction, which is meant to be better for their lives, which is beyond teaching for me. But that's just semantics and philosophical. But I hear you. And
I hope JJ agrees. Yeah.
You know, so I hear you and I agree. I think we've been speaking for long. I don't know how long we've been speaking.
No. I was about to say we need to end it. But yeah, man, this is just a basic intro for me, just to basically unpack my brother. I never get a chance to really sit and unpack. And in the process of unpacking how you're thinking, hoping one or two people also get to learn like how I get to learn.
I wanna my dream, because I highly admire Sadhguru. I'd like us to go to schools. I'd like us to find churches. I'd like us to find halls and anywhere where people are gathered and sit down or stand up or walk around and just speak our mind, and then allow people to ask us questions. Because I think I thrive in terms of knowledge sharing when I'm asked questions. I'd like to do that for a living. And I think if we could do that, especially where we sit together and we have a conversation in front of people, and then while we're chatting, allow people to, like they're doing in the comments now, to stand up and ask a question and have us engage and teach. Because life is very long, life is also short, and I'm constantly looking at where we can have the greatest impact for ourselves and for the world out there. And I'm highly convinced that it's not in building a business. It's not in chasing money. I think it's very much in accumulating information, meeting amazing people, processing it in our minds, and then sharing it with the world, and then letting the world interact with us so that we can give more specified and tailored responses for them individually. I think if we can have platforms, the biggest platforms to do that, I think we can make the world much, much better. And then through what we say and what we think, I believe the world will become richer, people will become happier, healthier, and then inevitably our lives will get better, because then your billionaire friend will fly you wherever you want, and your this hot chick who worships you can take you around the world with her or introduce you to cool people. I think that's where our power is. And I look at guys like T.D. Jakes, Miles Monroe, Jordan Peterson, even guys like Elon Musk, as much as people celebrate his mechanical stuff, most of us don't know anything about that. We actually celebrate his mind and the fact that he's sharing it with the world, either through Twitter or through interviews. And I fundamentally think that's where our superpowers lie. People need to hear what we have to say and our worldviews so that we can sculpt their worldviews against the other views that are constantly shoved down their throats, because we can see that they are miserable and we can see that they are losing in life, in their lives, not in our perception, in their lives. They're getting divorced. They don't see their kids. They're in debt. They're fat. They're generally always depressed and sleeping at night. They don't see their families. People are miserable. And I think we have the power through spoken word on platforms to change people's lives. And I look forward to trying to get that right somehow.
So yeah, guys, if anyone has these platforms and would like my brother and I to chat, please, man, please. With me, I love IG Live. If anyone wants to hit an IG with me, ask me questions on IG Live, send me a DM. I know my brother's also open to that. If you want to chat to both of us on your IG, send us a DM. Let's set it up. Let's chat. It doesn't have to be hour-long conversations. You could literally just have one question where we sit and chop it up for like 5 minutes, and then we take it from there. So yeah, no, thanks, Danga. Thanks so much.
Ahoy.
Ahoy.
I'll check you later.
All right, sharp guys. Sure.